Welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. As they say, we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And at Erin Wellness, we believe that sustainable health and wellness is an accumulation of 5 pillars: the thoughts you think, the friends you keep, daily movement, nutrition, and lastly, supplementation. So each month we feature guests doing exceptional things that will hopefully inspire you to step into all you are destined to be. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Friends You Keep. I am so excited today to welcome Alex Carnio to the podcast. Welcome, Alex. So excited to have you here. So Alex Carnio is a seasoned entrepreneur and a dedicated mom of a 5-year-old and 2-year-old twins. When I read that, I was like, holy crap. And she is the visionary CEO and founder behind ProductKIDvity. As a trailblazer in the childcare industry, she established Canada's premier licensed childcare academy with a unique twist, incorporating co-working spaces for enhanced productivity. If you have a chance, check out her website and look at she's got going on here. If you're a parent, this is unbelievable. I wish this was here when I had Michaela when she was little. With a passion for creating innovative solutions, Alex has built ProductKIDvity as a haven for both parents and professionals, seamlessly blending quality childcare services with collaborative work environment. Her commitment to fostering a balanced and supportive ecosystem reflects her belief in empowering individuals to thrive personally and professionally. In addition to her role as CEO, Alex brings a wealth of experience and nurturing touch to the ProductKIDvity community. Her journey as a serial entrepreneur and a proud mom serves as an inspiration, demonstrating the harmonious integration of a business acumen and a fulfilling family life. Wow. Good. That's amazing. Like, I have to say, people have to go check out
Sounds so good when you say it.
Well, And so when I look at your website and look at everything you got going on, especially at Instagram, I didn't realize how incredible it all was. So I know we're going to get into the kind of the meat of all of it, but can you tell me about your journey and what has brought you to where you are today with ProductKIDvity?
Totally. I never thought I'd be a childcare owner. I have no background in early childhood education, but basically what happened is I had my first daughter, Layton, in 2019. And I was really scared because I had just gone full into my business. I'd been doing kind of a side hustle for the last 5 years. In May of that year, I had quit my job and said, like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to start my marketing agency. I'm going to fully commit to it. And then 2 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant. And so my world kind of felt like it came crashing down because I was so scared as a first-time mom, but also just of the stigma that I was going to face of not wanting to take a maternity leave and not being able to, right? Like, I just left my job. I rely on that income. And so that year I really spent preparing to welcome her, but also set myself up for success in my business at the time. So when I had her in 2019, I obviously everyone tells you that it's hard, but you have no idea, obviously, how hard it can be until you're there. And I didn't take a mat leave. I was still working. I had a small team then, and just realized like how broken the childcare system was because, you feel bad doing it anyway. I think like you could take a mat leave and still feel guilty. You could not take a mat leave and feel guilty. There's no winning. And so that's when I realized, like, I'm spending all this money on an office, I'm spending all this money on daycare. None of my day feels productive. And then COVID happened, and me being the mom with the flexible schedule was the one that was also on childcare duties because my husband, he was expected to be at the office, and that was what it was. So we moved to Kelowna in 2020 from Edmonton. I think most of Edmonton moved here then because we are all just sick of it. And we're like, let's just live where we want to live. And I got here and I could not believe the childcare crisis. And it was insane. Like, I called places and people laughed at me and said, there's 5,000 other people ahead of you on this wait list, or you need to know someone that knows someone. Finally got her into one of the franchise locations here, and the hours were 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, 8-hour maximum. And I was like, this just seems criminal to me. So that's kind of how this all came about, was it just has to be done better. And I'm just going to do it, even though I might not know exactly what I'm doing.
I absolutely love that. I mean, so I'm going to say is I have, oops, hold on 1 second. My mic isn't on. There you go. Sorry. Let me just mark where this is. Sorry. Just want to see where we are. Okay. Okay. I was going to say, I actually didn't take a mat leave either, which a lot of people find really uncommon. And I found I didn't do it because so I was a rep, but I actually just downsized and kept a certain amount of stores just so it kept me in the rhythm of it. Because
Mhm.
for me, I couldn't imagine being completely out of the game for a year and then trying to get back in. So I kind of liked the way I did. I haven't met many other people who actually didn't take a mat leave. Did you
Yeah.
find it actually helped you kind of keep on your game and you were able to just kind of, or are you just
Well, I think the nice thing about not taking a mat leave is that, yeah, you definitely always kind of have like a different outlet because I feel like a lot of people in that first year of motherhood, a lot of people say like you kind of lose yourself, right? And
Mm,
so for me, it was nice because I could be a mom, but still have that piece of me that still felt like me because you don't really feel like yourself after you have a kid, right? Like everyone says, well, when you're not being pregnant, like that's great, but then you're breastfeeding and then you're not sleeping and then you're doing all these things. And so for me, it just felt nice to be able to have like a little bit of normalcy in my life. And actually, that first year after having Leighton, I actually tripled the business and then sold it a year later. So it gave me a different determination and drive having her.
yeah.
But I mean, my parents are both government workers. They think I'm a lunatic. They're like, "What are you doing? This is the only time you're going to get." And I'm like, "No, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And if you don't understand, like, that's fine. That's not something that you did, but this is what I'm doing."
I agree with the kind of keeping a sense of self though too, because I know part of, I mean, it's, they say not to identify solely by your career, but that is, I mean, I love what I do. And so it's really hard not to. And so to
Yeah.
completely not have that for a whole year would be really, really, really challenging, at least for me. And as I said, some people could, as you said, some people can do it and have no problem. Some people can. So how does the co-working concept, it's genius. So how does it exactly work? Can you explain a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I'm sitting up here right now, actually in our main lobby. So basically, what we have is a 10,000 square foot building in downtown Kelowna. It's the first of three. So this is our like flagship, I guess, for lack of a better word. So what we've done is we've taken the whole second floor and turned it into office space. So we have hot desks, we have dedicated desks and offices. And then downstairs, we also have the childcare. So then we have another 4,500 square feet of licensed childcare and that has 55 children downstairs. It has an outdoor courtyard where they do like their outdoor time. And so what we've really tried to do is separate it, but still keep it together. And that's what I found so nice is so when I was opening this, because why not take a mat leave again? I found I was having twins, and that was a total I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
there's swear words that were involved in
You
when
can
I
swear,
found
you
that out.
can swear here. I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah, no, it was hard. And so, but then I realized I'm going to need childcare more than I've ever needed childcare. And if I can't find a spot for one, I'm surely not going to be able to find a spot for
Gonna
three.
build it myself. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna,
like I'll just do it myself. So upstairs we have, yeah, like the co-working community space, and downstairs is the childcare. They're together but separate. So the one difference between us and other co-working and childcare spaces is that we're licensed. So there's some really great examples of co-working and childcare in Vancouver. There's Nestworks. There used to be the Workaround in Toronto, but they none of them are licensed. So basically, what that means is, as a parent, you are required legally to stay on the same premise as your child, and there's a maximum of 4 hours of childcare. So that was one thing I was really like dedicated to is like I want licensed childcare. I want people to feel like they don't have to stay here because I know some days I don't want to work here. Like I want to go home, I want to go to meetings, I want to not be where my kids are. And having that flexibility, I think, is really important.
yeah, 100%. And so you guys have everything. If I read this, you have chefs, so you can order your food. You've
Mhm.
Pelicans, you have like a workout space too. So if you want to get a workout in, I mean, this just sounds dreamy. Do you have beds? Do people just stay overnight?
Honestly, I joke. I'm like, if this business fails and I lose everything, I'll just make one of the offices my bedroom and I don't need to have a house. It's fine.
There you go. Exactly. I like that idea. You could buy a condo in your, like, do a building development. That's what you should do. You
Right?
should
I
be
don't know if
talking
my
to
landlords would
these
love that, but that's
guys.
fine. They don't need to know. But yeah, we do have everything. So I
Incredible.
think what it comes down to is, everyone always says when you're having a kid, like you need a village. It's count on your village. I didn't really feel like I ever had a village. And especially as an entrepreneur and someone that wanted to keep working and growing a business, it was very lonely. It was very isolating. And there wasn't a lot of people like me. A lot of my friends took the traditional, 12 to 18 months off. They think I'm a lunatic for working the whole time. Um, then I moved to Kelowna during the pandemic and had the twins. And then it's even more lonely, right? Because I don't know anyone here. It's very, very isolating to be by yourself. So, what I wanted to do is basically create a utopia for like a working parent where they can A, relate to other people that are going through the same things. We have lots of moms in here that have just had babies that are going downstairs to breastfeed, that are normalizing working instead of taking
Yes.
mat leaves.
Mhm.
And then we also have like other people that are entrepreneurs, self-employed, working from home that just want to have a place where they can go and actually have some socialization. So the food part of it came because this building actually had a kitchen in it previously from a cafe that was being run out of one part of it. And so we decided to keep that. And it's been the greatest thing because I never cook.
Wow.
I'm not
So
the greatest.
you have like a chef down there all the time that's cooking?
Yes. He's full time. So he works here. And so behind me, like I'm just looking at the menu for this week. It's tomorrow's house roast chicken and mashed potatoes and steamed vegetables. Then we have handmade cheeseburger sliders and oven baked sweet potatoes with chili aioli on Tuesday. So basically you can just like message him and say, this is what I want for lunch. And then they'll bring it right up to your desk. So
And so in the sense of even other co-working, but do you have people who don't have children coming in? Because yours sounds
Ooh,
way
yeah,
better
yeah,
than other
yeah.
co-working spaces.
We have like a little pod at the front over here, and it's just a group of like entrepreneurs and a company that is like, we just want to work out of here because we want to use the food, we want to have the central location, and we want access to the events and the Pelotons and all the things that we have. So
So smart, so smart. And you came up with the concept. Did you see, was there other ones you saw that you kind of went, okay, I see that. How can I make it better?
yeah, so the one that I had known about was the workaround, and that's it. That was in Toronto. Unfortunately, they closed this year. COVID really took a toll on them.
Yeah,
And I
well,
think we're finding that more and more with those types of businesses is that you really have to have a strong community to make it work. And with us, why we can keep this strong community is because we are licensed with childcare. I
yes.
think if we weren't licensed, it'd be a lot harder to have that. But I mean, that's just the way of the world, I think, with business right now. And people got into very expensive lease deals pre-COVID, and COVID just crushed a lot of businesses.
Well, I mean, it was so smart of you to do from the get-go to have it licensed. And I mean, let's be honest, the COVID experience in Ontario is completely different, luckily, than the COVID experience we had here. I know going back out east and seeing stores, and I remember even last year being in stores, and a lot of people still had masks. A lot of people were very, and nothing's wrong if you want to wear a mask. I am all for whatever, do whatever works for you. But I was kind of like, wow, there's still a lot of people at it because I didn't notice that as much out in Vancouver. And I'm like, oh, that's because you guys were in full lockdown forever. Like we didn't have the same experience as they did, right? So wow. So I mean, and I want to talk about some of the programs you offer because they're super cute. So you have all the little names. There's like little cherries, the Ogo Pogos. I was born in the interior, so Ogo Pogo. If you don't know what it is, you should look it up. It's quite a good story. I still think to this day I see one if I'm ever in the ocean. Sorry, in the
Like,
in the lake, not the ocean. Knox Mountain Climbers and Lakeshore Learners. So
hmm.
tell me a little bit about what each difference one is.
Yeah, so one thing that I really wanted to do with this business from day one is make it scalable and
Mm,
also make it personal. So I think a lot of the times when we look at childcare centers, we think of like butterflies and rainbows. And I think there's like 12 here that have like owls in the logo. And I just wanted to do something a bit different.
yeah.
And so one thing I thought of was like, how can we personalize these centers to the regions that they're in? So the hope is that, if we did move into Vancouver, we did move on to the island, they would be customized to that as well. So when I looked at, what are some elements of the Okanagan that we think of, how can we transition that into kind of our programming and the names that we call programs? It's not just, junior kindergarten. It's,
Yeah.
they're the lakeshore learners. Or so basically it's broken into ages. So the little cherries are like the baby babies. So we have babies that like started at like 3 months. My twins were one of them. They were the youngest and the only two kids in the program at the time. But that room is a little bit more adept to, being a baby and having more naps and needing more of a smaller ratio and a quiet room. Then we have the Okopogos, which are our 1 to 2 year olds, and those are our, busy and exploring toddlers.
Yeah.
Knox Mountain Climbers, which is where my twins are now, are the 2 to 3 year olds, and they're really getting positioned into preschool. And then we have the Lakeshore Learners, which is our preschool program. So those are the ones that are 3 to 5. And we've customized it just to kind of keep it age appropriate. We are licensed for multi-age on certain days. So like if we have lower numbers or we have a Saturday, we're also open Saturdays, which is something that's very different.
Yeah.
So we can combine programs, but we try and keep it as age specific as possible with our curriculum. That way people are learning from their peers and it's all age appropriate for where they're at.
Yeah, I love the fact you're open on Saturdays too. I think that's a big thing. A lot
Yeah.
of people, when you think about it, I mean, I work on Saturdays. I work actually every day.
Me too.
I do, and sometimes it's a little easier to have that Saturday because then you can cut your days shorter and make your days longer and really kind of make it your own. So having childcare at your fingertips is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And even just wanting to, if you want to run errands on a
Oh,
Saturday,
Saturday is my
right?
day. So like Saturday, I drop the kids off. I go
Right?
to my gym. I do a class. I go to the chiropractor. I go get groceries. I come home. I have a nap, and then
Yeah.
I go pick them up because it's like
So,
it's my sacred Saturday. Like I need that Saturday.
yeah.
And yesterday we weren't open on Saturday because we've had lots of illness, and it was like crushing to me. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not doing this week, but I'm looking forward to next Saturday.
That's so great. So I've been watching on Instagram. You are opening a new location. Is that correct? So you have two locations right now? How many do you
We
have right
do, yes. So we have the one that we opened, this one that I'm sitting in right now in April 2022. And then in April, April 2023, we opened a second location. And that was kind of a weird experience because we were actually approached by a childcare center that wanted to close and asked if we'd be interested in acquiring them.
now? Okay.
And so I did an acquisition last year, and I will say 2023 was like the worst mental health year for me because of that acquisition.
Hey.
I learned so much. It like Kelowna's a small town, right? And you're never going to make everyone happy. People are going to, gossip and talk about things and think that they know what's going on when they actually don't. But basically, what's happened is we were approached by another childcare center. They wanted out. So we took on the one location that would still be able to remain open. Did we handle things perfectly? No. Did we know what we were doing? Not really. And we learned a lot. We have the second location now, and it's definitely been like a learning curve. Would I do things like that again? No. Would I do an acquisition like that again? Probably not.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, but now we're working on our third location. So that's going to be also downtown Kelowna.
Oh,
And I'm really
wow, a
excited
second
about that
one.
one because we can shape it the way we want it to be, right? It's still us, it's true to us versus the other one I felt like was more of like a passion project. Like I want to help these people, but it really bit me in the ass.
Gotcha. And so you still have the other location that's open and okay.
Yes. So we have
Yeah.
the two locations. We have 120-ish kids between the two. And then our third one that we're building out right now will have 120 in it itself. So it's like the size of those two together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to come? I mean, obviously you'd be thinking of coming to Vancouver eventually.
Yes, I would love to be in the Lower Mainland. I would love to be on the island. And
Yeah.
personally, like I think where I'm leaning to is, I personally would love to live probably more in like a bit of a hustle and bustle than what I'm experiencing in
Yeah.
Kelowna.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, where logically does it make sense? But also like where do I want to be long term? Because I still don't even know.
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, I'm in Kits. I think Kits would be a great area. I don't have toddlers or little ones, but
Yeah.
I know that that's such a family centric area. And then you also have the ocean close by and mind you, rent's really expensive, but
But here's the thing with, okay, so I know in your list of questions you gave me, you'd asked about this childcare fee reduction initiative.
yeah, yeah, that's what I want to talk about next.
So basically it's interesting. I was talking to someone that I met at the Uplift summit that we were
Yep.
both at, and she was recently kicked out of her daycare. And she was kicked out, she said, because she was asking too many questions. And she
Yeah.
said, how is this allowed? How can this be happening? And I said, well, what's happened here is that the people that have been in the system and kind of got grandfathered in before the CCFRI program, they can do whatever they want and they know it. So like if you want to question things, if you want to, have questions about your child and their, learning or you disagree with something, you're out because they have 5,000 other people they can fill you with.
Hmm.
And what's happened is the government, they say it's so great that they're doing this $10 a day program. But what's really happened is it's made it really hard for new people to want to enter the market. So, for example, like we have competitors in Kelowna that were in the system before we were in the system. So they're allowed to charge, their base fee of care for this 8 hours a day. They're allowed to charge $1,800 a month versus the new center that's coming in can only charge $1,300 a month. And so what's happened is they've regionalized it. So now, like if you're in Vancouver, your base rate can be maybe $2,200 a month, but if you're in Kelowna, it can only be $1,300 a month. So they've really made this playing field so unlevel. And what
Wow.
happened to us is that we had set our prices based on what our competitors were charging. And then we got our license and we opened and we already had the families in. And they're like, well, no, you can only charge $1,300. And I was like, well, this business doesn't work at $1,300
Yeah.
a month. I would have never done this had I known it was going to be 1,300. So we've had to get really creative with these optional fees to say that, okay, your base care is 8 to 4 Monday to Friday. If you want food, it's extra. If you want to stay till 7:30, it's extra. If you want Saturday, it's extra. And so people are coming after us saying, well, you've made this like a two-tier system and you're only promoting it for the elite. And that's just really not the case. Like I never wanted a two-tier system,
Yeah,
but I've had to play the game
no
to be in the
choice.
program. Like, and the reality is we pay our educators. That was one thing when I started the business was that I wanted to make sure that educators were paid an equitable wage because it is so hard. Like I look after my own kids for the weekend, like I'm haggard. Can you imagine looking after 12
Yeah,
kids every day that aren't yours?
can't even imagine.
They are heroes and they have gone to school, they're educated, they're qualified. And to say that they're only worth $18 an hour is really insulting, I think. And that's why there's
Insulting.
such a shortage of educators in this industry is because people can't pay them more because the government's now dictating that they can charge less. So how does this work, right? It makes no sense.
So one of the questions I did have too was obviously in BC we have a shortage, and is that one of the reasons why? Because we're not able to pay the daycare workers what they actually are due to be paid, correct?
They've recently come out with a new, it's called wage enhancement.
Yeah.
And so wage enhancement is it used to be they got an extra $4 an hour if they were licensed ECE or infant toddler educator. Now it's $6. And that's great. But like it's not enough because what's happening is like you're saying now these centers can't charge more. So how are they going to even be able to pay
Exactly.
anything normal, right? So
Yeah.
for us, we charge, or sorry, we pay our educators like an ECE is making like $32 an hour now, and an infant toddler educator is making 33 to 36, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But that does hurt, right? Like it's
Yeah.
you're in business, the profitability of the business is the lifeline of it, and payroll hurts every 2 weeks right now because we're being forced into these different parameters of what we're allowed to charge.
So do you think there'll be anything where something will be changed? What do you think is going to happen in the future? Because I would think a lot of these daycare facilities or licensed daycare facilities can't continue on that way, right? They can't continue on just like barely making by, especially, I mean, when you think about it, I agree with what you've done with adding the services. I mean, regular childcare, you drop them off 8 till 4. I used to have to send Michaela with her snacks. It's like school. You want to have a
Yeah.
pizza, you pay extra for it, all those different
Yeah.
things. So that all makes sense. If I used to want to pick up Michaela later, I had to pay extra for that as well. So kind of the same idea. And then the workspace, of course, would be on top of that too. So that all makes sense. But do you think in the sense of will there be a raise? Like, will they actually increase that amount that they're giving you guys every month or allocating towards you guys? And sorry, on a side note, how do they say that $1,300 for Kelowna and such a big difference for Vancouver? I mean, it's still expensive to live in Kelowna. It's not
It's
like you're in the middle of nowhere.
No. And they've made it now so like the most you can increase your fees is 3% a year. Well, we know the cost of living is a lot higher than that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
way higher than that.
yeah, like there's so much to unpack about this conversation. But so I'm in this group, my business partner and I joined it. It's called BC Private Childcare Providers. It's a private group. And it's kind of like the Are We Dating the Same Man group? Like we all just share our dirt about like what's going on.
Don't screenshot it and send it to him though.
Yeah, don't tell anyone that we said this,
Yeah.
but this is what we said. So basically, it's almost like a bit of a support club in a way because it makes you feel like you're not crazy and you're not alone because there are 12,000 people in this group, and I would say 11,500 of the 12,000 are having struggles right now. They're frustrated with the government. They don't know how they're going to make it work. They're struggling to find staff because they can't charge more. They're like, it's just this constant cycle. And so it's hard because I feel like people want more childcare, but then you do it and then people are pissed at you with how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, like there's lots of people that don't like us and don't like me because of what we're charging, but it's like I'm not even making any money out of this. Like I
Yeah.
have a second mortgage on my home. I'm hoping this works out. Like I'm not joking when I say I'll make one of these rooms a bedroom if I have to.
Yeah.
But it's just like this concept that private providers are greedy when now they've made it so that all the grants and all the things go to nonprofits. And everyone always asks me, well, why didn't you just start it as a nonprofit then? I said, well, I didn't know. Like, how would you know? Like,
Yeah.
even with licensing, when I found this space, I said, would you guys be able to come and look at the space and tell me if you think it's suitable for childcare? They said, no, just build it out and then we'll come after. So you're telling me I have to risk everything and hope I did it right. And then at the end, you'll decide if I did it right or not. Like it's very frustrating.
Yeah, no, that'd be super frustrating. That's actually what they're kind of doing. I mean, in my business for NPNs, because they're looking at putting cost recovery in, which is fully fine because we have no problem paying for that. But like there's one of them that's, $66,000 they're proposing, Health Canada is proposing. And, you have to pay the $66,000 and then we'll tell you after if you get the NPN or not. And if you don't, you've just wasted 66 grand.
And who has 66 grand to
Who's
wait?
for one product, right? So yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of the same thing where you're not where it just doesn't. And I find there's certain things in dealing. I mean, I'm sure we both do it, all of us do. Certain things in dealing with the government or a lot of things where you're just like, this makes no sense.
no.
Make this
Make it
make
make sense,
sense? Make
please.
this make sense, and we can really start having a conversation. But there's so many levels and so many people, and all meetings and meetings and nothing ever really gets done. So I
Yeah.
think I think they
And
need
it's
a
hard because everyone says like advocate to your MLA, talk to your
yeah,
MPs.
they
Okay,
don't.
I've done that. I do that.
Yeah.
Even one MLA, when we had a little bit of controversy about our fees in September, she wanted to come in and like say like, well, what's going on? And I said, here are my books. Here's my last 2 years of financials. This is how much it costs to keep this center running and functional, and this is how much it keeps or it costs to make it like sustainable as a long-term business solution. So it's definitely, yeah, it's very eye-opening to see just how ridiculous the system is. And the thing is, you can try till you're blue in the face to explain this to a parent or the general public, but they don't care, right?
No.
They just want to pay what they want to pay, and they don't care how you get there. They don't really care about the background. They're not going to go advocate on the picket lines for you to the government. They just want their cheap childcare and they want it now.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And in that too, I mean, coming to Vancouver and coming to more metropolitan cities might be a good idea for that as well, because then you're, maybe in a demographic where people are like, that's fine.
Yeah,
And so maybe
totally.
that's the way you have to be, because really at the end of the day, it's a business and
Mhm.
people need to really understand that. And as you said, you're not a nonprofit. So you have to be
It's
making.
no profit right now.
So what is your BHAG for productivity? Is it your big, hairy, audacious goal? I said that to somebody, they're like, what's a BHAG? I'm like, your big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes, I've done a lot of gazelles in my past work, so I know what the BHAG is. I thought about this a lot. I think there's kind of two paths forward with it. I'd say one is just to keep expanding. So we wanted to have 10 locations in 5 years. We're going to have three in 2 years. So I'm hoping that, we can keep that trajectory going. The other would be looking at some other strategic partnerships. So there's some things happening in Alberta with a co-working center that we're like potentially talking about collaborating on, because they have a really good share in the market for co-working. We'll have a good share for childcare and looking at how we can combine those businesses. So I definitely see some kind of merger or acquisition happening in the future. But at this point, it's just, yeah, what's the most strategic step and what's not going to make me lose my mind?
Exactly. Exactly. And return on investment is really challenging at times because you can look at it and think it's going to work. I mean, I'm sure when you did the acquisition of the second location, right? You're like, yeah, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
But until you're knee deep in it, then you're like, oh, wait a second.
Mhm.
But the lucky part is you're going to take all of that knowledge into whatever you do next. So if you do end up in that kind of situation, that's what I kind of think of with, I look at them all as really expensive lessons. There was one time where I had the guys I dated, I numbered them by lessons. I actually named them like lesson 5, lesson 6.
I love
I was like, I appreciate you, lesson number 5. So,
Yeah, yeah. We lessons are important. I think that's one thing with entrepreneurship is like you understand like failure isn't final. It's honestly just a stop that you have to make sometimes. There's something you have to learn there. And
yeah.
I'm still such a big believer that everything happens for a reason. Sometimes that reason is like you don't know what it is at the time, but looking back on last year and how hard it was on me as a person and how hard it was on a business, I think that now it's just been eye-opening because here we are about to open the third location, and I know all the things that we're not going to do again, right? So it sucks to learn those things sometimes, but you have to.
Well, I think it's also my mom and I have talked about this. It's having those things happen and then also learning from them because then you can have people who have things happen, they keep doing the same, like dating the same type of guy over and over again. But if you stop for a second, go, okay, wait a second. All right, we're not doing this again. We're not doing that again. And really getting good at listening to that. I call it your good orderly direction, that God that's like, hey, and you're like, wait a second, I'm getting a hey.
Yes.
Let me just pause for a minute and take a look at what I'm doing here because something's telling me to pay attention. So
Totally. Yes. And I think that, like, with entrepreneurship, there's always like that little element of chaos no matter what. It just like it you never know what the day is going to bring. And it's funny because my business partner, who's quite involved in the business now with me, he's not a chaos guy. Like, I think he wants to avoid chaos at all costs. So when he sees like what's going on, for him, if something goes wrong, it feels a lot more fatal to him versus with me. I'm like, we'll figure it out. It's okay. He's like, I don't know if you're delusional or if you're right. I said, I think you have to have a little bit of delusional, like, in your
100%.
brain, because if you're always like worried about like what's going to go wrong, you're never going to do it, right? If I would have thought about, okay, here's all the things I have to do to open this place, I would have never done it. But I looked at it as like, okay, here's like my little check boxes. And then when I have all them checked, it'll be good. And that's kind of where I'm still at right now.
100%, just checking the boxes.
Yeah.
Well, I think speaking of chaos is a really wonderful way to segue to how we met. It's a perfect
We're trauma
segue,
bonded, Erin.
chaos into the total mom pitch, which is, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't know, in 2023, I won the total mom pitch. And in 2022, you won the total mom pitch.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Congratulations to you too. So what was funny was a lot of people don't know the story. But when I won in May, I did not receive my money and the prize values, what I realized, it was not $50,000, which is what the check says when they hand it to you. It is $10,000 cash and $40,000 in services. Now, these services that were on the list that I finally did acquire after bugging and bugging and bugging, were way overinflated, like $1,500 for an hour-long conversation, which I know this person would never charge $1,500 for an hour of their time because they didn't have anything really to contribute to what we were talking about. But then on top of that, it took me till September to get the money. We had to legally serve Anna Sinclair for the money. And in that time, I had reached out to you because I was like, at first I was really scared to reach out to you because I was like, oh, maybe she's friends with Anna. So I was like, hey, just wondering if you were able to utilize all of your winnings from the total mom pitch, because I wanted to kind of position it in a way that if you were like, it was great, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
just
Awesome.
in
Yeah.
case, right?
Yeah.
So you experienced a very similar thing, correct?
Correct. And so did Julia, the winner the year before.
2021. So every year, I'm still owed $25,000 in prizes. How much are you
Oh,
still owed?
probably. Well, I don't think I've gotten any of my in-kind stuff. But the thing is, like,
Wow.
it's one of those things where you get so busy in the business, you're kind of like, okay, like, I don't have time to keep chasing all of these things.
100%.
And there's been, yeah, there's lots of, like when people say it gives you the ick, the whole thing kind of gives me the ick now. And when Julia had reached out to me when I made the total five or the top five in my year, she said to me, she said, just so you know, like, I haven't been given half the things that I was promised. So just like make sure you have that on your radar. And so we kind of started calling it the total mom gong show because
Which
everything about it is just, it's so performative and nothing about it is actually of substance. And what makes me mad about it is that it takes time to apply to these things. It takes time to pitch. It takes time to get ready to pitch. It takes time to, do all these things. The last thing you should do as the person that's won is have to go and chase your prizes down.
100%. 100%.
And yeah, so then last year I saw that it was in person. Like, you flew to Toronto, you did all these
I
things.
paid to fly to Toronto. I paid for everything, did the whole thing. And I
Yeah,
mean, I'd always rather win than not. So on that side, I mean, hey, I mean,
we did it, right? Like, we won.
it was
That's
nice to
great.
do it. And it was a great experience to be up and pitching is always really great. But
Yeah.
the after effect of having to chase it down and beg almost, and then finally hire a lawyer to serve her to get my money. I mean, so I've blocked Anna on all my stuff. I know she uses my picture right now in her marketing because she's doing it again this year. I don't follow her. I don't follow her brand, and I want nothing to do with it. And anybody who reaches out and asks me, I'm very open as to what they're kind of stepping into. And, I'm like, go apply if you want.
Yeah.
Everything's a learning experience, but just be really aware of the fact that nobody's holding her accountable for the fact that she is continuing to run these and she has not paid out the people who have won in the past years.
Was there an application fee when you applied?
There was not an application fee when I applied. I think there is one this year though. So which
There
means,
is.
yeah, so which means she's making money off the applications. right? And so this was the other thing too that I think kind of bit her in the butt when it came to my winning was the lady who handed me the check on the stage was from TD Canada Trust. So I was a part of the forum, and the forum, they had a founder circle. So I was part of that, and that was sponsored by TD. So when she was handing me the check on stage, I said, "Hey, Crystal, I'm actually part of the founder circle." And she oversaw it, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, and see, that's great." And so we had this kind of immediate connection over that. So as time went on, in September, I finally emailed Crystal and told her everything. I'm like, "Just so you know, I still have not received any of the money yet." And she was like, "What? What are you talking about?" Right? Because they gave her the money thinking she had given it to me. So I know TD has completely severed contact with her and all business relations with her and will not be sponsoring them going forward.
Same with Scotiabank.
Yeah. Oh, did they? Have you spoken to them too?
I spoke to Scotiabank when I was going through all this, and then I met Courtney, who is one of the leads for the Women's Initiative at the Uplift conference that we were both at
Oh,
again
okay.
in
Yeah.
Victoria. Such a good conference, by the way. That was
Such a
amazing.
good conference. I'm
Can't wait.
going. Are you going to the one here again?
Yes, I will definitely
I
be.
plug here.
Yeah.
Everybody who wants to come to, it's going to have a good, did you hear? We can't say who the guest speaker might be, but did you hear?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you when we come off.
Yeah, text me. I want to know. Yes, I'm
Yes.
definitely.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, so yeah, I think it's what concerns me this year is A, they're charging for application fees. That seems really sus to me. B, they don't have a sponsor. Like there's no presented by whatever, right? Like that also takes away the credibility.
It's all her bridges.
And then now I saw Pocketed, they were promoting it on their platform. So I actually reached out to them and said, "Hey guys, like
Yep.
I you need to know like this is what's going on." So I actually like have given them like this is
Good.
fraudulent, this is false advertising because I've had a lot of women entrepreneurs reach out to me
Me
and say
too.
like I want to apply, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I told them like please don't.
Yeah.
Like you
No,
can if you want to, but like here's my experience.
yeah. And
Here's
it's not
Erin's
good.
experience. Here's Julia's experience. Like
Yeah.
it's gross.
And it's just gross that it keeps happening over and over again. And to perpetrate that you are a supporter and champion for women when it really, and this is my definition, but even the first call, I was like, this is really not about the entrepreneurs. It's really about her. And it really was about the Anna Sinclair shit show. That's what I felt. 100%. It was all
I
about
think
her.
people are afraid to speak out because they do think
Yeah.
she's well connected. They do
Yeah.
think she has all these contacts. But for me, it's always like, what's that Instagram versus reality, right?
Yeah.
I think that
100%.
if, you know, people should know. They like, I'm not going to be scared of like what's going to potentially happen to my
Yeah.
business because she
Me neither.
fucked me over. Like
Me neither.
I got
Well,
nothing to lose.
that was the thing when I talked to Julie as well. So Julie was the first year winner. She said to me, and that broke my heart too. She was like, I was scared what she would do to my business if I said anything. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so gross that this
Yeah.
woman is perpetrating herself as somebody who's a champion of women. And
Hmm.
she sits on stages and she's called on panels and they bring her out this champion and that she's treating women so poorly, not giving them the prizes and making them feel that they can't speak and use their voice if something doesn't work for them. Like it's just anyhow.
Well, like I think the reality is that finding funding right now is so hard. So when you see something as, oh,
Especially
here's
as
a
a woman.
grant that you don't have to pay back, like that's
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yeah.
then you realize, okay, only 10 grand of it is cash. Like that's not very much, honestly. Like
And
for
you
me,
don't
that's
get, yeah, like $15,000 in HR services that do not exist. So the lady who owns the HR company and I are actually friends now. She was just appalled. It was supposed to be something that the Total Mom Pitch put together. She's
Mhm.
been in here for a business for in 1 year in for business. And Anna Sinclair came to her and told her about how she's going to give her this opportunity. And she was like, oh, okay. And they were going to help her create this to give me nothing. She was like, Erin, I don't have it to give you. She goes, I don't know what to say. And she was almost crying. I'm like, it's okay. I know
Not
it's not you.
you.
It's not you. I know that, right? And same with the marketing plan I was supposed to get, which I did get a very basic Excel spreadsheet. And I emailed the girl back and said, wow, this is what you give for $10,000 because mine is, I know my marketing plan. And it was, yeah,
It's
it,
insane.
it's
Well, even
insane.
like so we got media coverage after our pitch. And it was the Toronto Sun. And it was not a digital version. It was only available in Ontario, which is great for me and see.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, that was the media that we got after it. And I know with Julia, she was told like, oh, I'm going to get you a spread in the Globe and Mail. We're going to do all these things.
No,
Nothing.
nothing came to, actually, this
Like,
was,
I'm sorry, the Toronto Sun is not my demographic.
yeah, exactly.
Right next to the Sunshine Girl.
Actually, I was a sunshine girl when I was in my 20s.
Oh, good for you. No disrespect,
No,
but
it's totally
that
fine.
was a different chapter of life.
Very different chapter of life. It was actually funny because I got onto the Canada podcast, and the girl and I I told her everything happened because at first she's like, "Congratulations!" I told her the whole story. She's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
So then after she emailed me and she's like, "Hey, just so you know, I talked to the owner of Canada's podcast. He never gave this as a prize because she valued it as $1,500 worth of prizes." She goes, "For
Mhm.
one, he never gave it as a prize. For two, he's had issues with her already with stuff like this. And so he's like appalled that she put a value on it." He goes, "And for three, this is a free podcast." So, anyways, our gist of the story is, ladies, if you are going to be applying for the Total Mom Pitch, go in with your eyes very wide open and knowing exactly what's going to happen because you might get your $10,000, maybe, but you probably get ready to get a lawyer and server because that's the only way I finally got my money,
Yeah.
right? Or you're going to have to beg for it, and it is almost it's so demoralizing to be like, please give me the money I was deserved. I mean, I look at the forum who I do mentorship with, and I love the forum. I
Mhm.
message them. I'm friends with some of the higher ups, and I was like, hey, how long do you guys take to you guys pay out? And they're like, 7 days. They're like, Erin, this is not normal, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So then I began going, okay, well, maybe it's not because I thought maybe it is normal that you do this, right? So luckily, I had that TD contact that I was able to reach out to and kind of really put things in motion, plus a lawyer.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, like I've said this before, like the only good thing that's come out of this for me is like the connections, right? And so being able to have, you and
Yeah.
Julia and other people that like are part of it, it's been really nice. I have a couple local moms in Kelowna too that were in like the top 100. And they asked me like, well, what happened? And so I told them. And the one, she was really quite upset because she's like, I just feel like that's so hurtful.
It
That's so sad. And it is. But I
is.
think all we can do is like, spread the
Spread
word.
spread the word and be really
Yeah.
honest about it. And if
Yeah.
anybody has questions, you can reach out to us.
Yeah.
So let's kind of, we're going to wrap this up, but I have three questions, personal questions. So what is one thing you would tell your 20-year-old self besides be wary of the total mom pitch?
But you're gonna have three kids and oh my God. I think I would tell my 20-year-old self that it's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
Because I have always been like a very high functioning, overachieving person. And when I was 20, I had just graduated university. I was getting paid, 30 grand a year working at a bank and so lost and so unsure of myself. And so I think what I would tell her is that, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be okay, but you just have to keep trying because
Yeah.
the things that you like and the things that you might think you like and the people that you think are your friends and the person you think you're in love with, all these things. 20 is such
Yes.
a hard age, right?
Yes. Even
Yes. So
teens, even
fine.
teens. Yeah, like I said, it with my daughter too. I'm like, I know your friends seem to be your world, but I mean, my best friend from high school, Regan, who we're talk occasionally, but we don't talk every day now. Like I go and you should be evolving and changing people. Like you can't, unless you're living in some small town, and you have the same people your whole entire life. I said, but I
Yeah.
want you to constantly be evolving. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to,
I grew up in a small town, which is funny that you say that because, yeah, I have nothing in common with anyone that I
yeah,
went to school with. But at the time, like when you're in those situations, you think that's the whole world,
yeah,
right?
that's the whole world.
Um, and
So
yeah, I definitely would say like it's gonna be okay. You're
it's going to
fine.
be okay. All right. What makes you inspired? What makes you inspired to be your best self?
Well, definitely think my kids do.
Mm.
But they also bring out my worst self sometimes, right? Like they've tested me in so many aspects that,
I agree. I
it's
agree.
hard. But I'd say lately what's been really helping me like be an inspiration to myself is taking care of myself because I feel like in entrepreneurship and motherhood, I kind of lost myself in those first 2 years both times.
Yeah.
And so one thing I've been doing lately just to kind of feel like myself again is taking time for myself and not feeling guilty about it.
Your
So
Saturdays, like your
my
Saturdays.
Saturdays, but
Yeah.
like, I joined the gym across the
Yeah.
alley from the daycare. I have been going on trips with my friends. I've been applying for things that I normally wouldn't have done. Like I went to India in the summer, as
Oh,
part of the
cool.
G20 Young Entrepreneurship Conference.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, so like I've been doing more of those things to try and not really, I won't say find myself, but dedicate time to myself to have those opportunities. And it's funny because I can tell my family, like my mom, my aunts, I can just tell the vibe, right? They're like, where are you going now? What makes that you're doing all these things? And I am very lucky to have a supportive partner that wants me to do these things, but I'm also very lucky that I have a daycare so that I can do these things.
Well, and you own
Um,
it. So that's even
yeah,
the
so
better
taking
part.
time for me,
Yeah.
trying new things, going new places, and pushing myself more out of my comfort zone every day is kind of what I've been doing lately. And I think that's been so good for me. I feel like I have like the passion again and almost just like the drive to want to keep going.
Yeah. I love that. And what is your favorite swear word? You can say it.
I laughed when I saw that. Definitely it's fuck.
Yeah. You seem to be batting like 10 out of 10 with that one so far. It was
Yeah,
mother.
I
I had
say
that
that a
last,
lot.
but
It's
that
it's
too.
funny because I like my kids are parrots right now, and yeah, the my one twin, she's been saying fuck a lot. So, um,
I love
sorry.
it. Sorry.
But you know, it's so versatile.
It is so
You know,
versatile.
you can use
And
it
they
with
actually,
everything.
studies have shown that it actually helps your cortisol levels when you swear. There's a certain power in swear words that helps us, it
Right.
does. Sometimes
Well, we
you
have
gotta,
a swear jar at home, and it's overflowing. So
you
that's
can buy
yeah.
yourself a trip.
I do. Where am I gonna go next?
There you go.
Yeah.
So tell us where we can find you, where we can find your company. Plug away.
Okay, so I've been working on building a personal brand this year. So if you want to follow
Nice.
me, my personal Instagram now is alex.carnio. I keep my other one kind of private just for like I have lots of kid photos and
Yeah,
stuff on
of
and just
course. Of
people in this world. And then ProductKIDvity. So ProductKIDvity.com. That's where you can find most of our stuff, or even just Google childcare and co-working. That probably will pop us up because there's not a lot of us. And yeah, thank you so much, Erin, for letting me come
course.
on. I'm glad we can do this after my
I
kids.
know, I know. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this. So thank you so much as well for coming on. This has been absolutely fantastic and just understanding and learning about your business. And then, of course, also connecting about the Total Mom and really hoping to warn some people out there. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
Erin.
everybody else, stay tuned. Next month, we have Mint Cleaning coming on next
I
month. So they're
love
awesome.
them.
They're awesome ladies.
You
They're
know
going
how
to
much I love them? When I
they're
saw them at
so
the
great.
Outlet Comet
They're so
conference, I jumped over my table. I was like, I have to meet these ladies. They're
They're
amazing.
so great. Yeah. So they're on next month. So stay tuned and take a listen next month. And thank you so much once again.
Okay, thanks, Erin.
Bye.